So here we have a potential murderer standing for our parliament. We know he is a bankrupt. He is a bankrupt. He can't manage money. That's why he has projected that onto me. We know that he's taken money from people for his gold scam. There are many other things I could say, but here's the final thrust of this message to you, the members. I believe that he stole that database. The implication is, did he use any of your names in order to get the party over the 500 threshold? Now, I've made inquiries, and there is no way that any of us can know. There is no way there's transparency on the names that the thieves, the fake NZ Loyal, have put in to the Electoral Commission. The only way this will work now is if you are willing to play your part. I'm going to write a letter to them saying this man cannot be registered as a political leader in New Zealand of this party. He's stolen the party. He's tried to destroy the name of the founder. He's made false claims all the way through about doing all the work and being in the inner circle. It's complete lies. He's misrepresented everything. He's claiming that he came up with the name, or one of his supporters did. And moreover, he's saying he got to 500 when a month ago he told somebody he was really struggling to get there. So here, Electoral Commission, and we'll put a prototype letter underneath, I want you to check the names that he's put in to see whether Elizabeth Gunn is in there as a potential member of fake New Zealand Loyals. So please would you do the same. If you're John Smith, write and say, I want to know if my name and my details are in the fake New Zealand Loyal Party. And I also want to register with you, the Electoral Commission, that this man does not have the character or the integrity or the decency or the honour to be able to represent a party in this election campaign.
Anyway, 100% he's destroying Loyal, and I'm seeing that clearer and clearer by the day. He's there to destroy it. And I genuinely think that that's what Calvin and Hannah are here for stuff that I found out. And it's beyond just money and stuff. It is serious, serious stuff. I couldn't get more serious, quite honestly. And I wish I could say more. I really, really do. But I believe that that's what they're here for, is to create that kind of chaos and completely sabotage anything good.
Hello to all the real New Zealand Loyal followers who signed up to our database. I wanted to do a special message. I'm Liz Gunn, and I actually, under the Constitution that was never ratified by me, but which the fake leader of the fake NZ Loyal claims is a valid constitution, I am still the leader of NZ Loyal, because there is a section which we'll put up here saying that any member of the board who resigns must resign in writing, and the leader of the party, Liz Gunn, is a member of the board. I never did a letter of resignation, but it was back here in the NZ Loyal studio in 2024, in the middle of 2024, that I put out a message saying, New Zealand, I believe the whole electoral system in this country is completely broken. I had been to see the Electoral Commission 3 times, and I felt that they were not the least bit interested in the evidence that we had of defalcations, we could call it, corruption, some might call it. The head of the Electoral Commission just shrugged, wasn't interested in hearing our evidence, which included a woman with Alzheimer's, and this will happen again now, whose son had reported to me that his mother had had her vote taken. And when he went the next day at my request to ask her about for whom she had voted, she not only thought that Jacinda Ardern was Australian and that she lived in Australia, but she thought Jacinda Ardern was the head of the Conservative Party. So this was somebody who was not compos mentis, who was not mentally here enough to vote, but her vote had been taken. And we reported that and many other things to the Electoral Commission. There was no follow-up. In the time since, I've done a lot of interviews with people around the world, including Andrew Bridge and a number with him, and he was completely cheated of his seat over in the UK. Obviously with Thomas Massey in America, we have evidence that one of the ways the globalists are corrupting our system and ruining our Western nations is to simply steal our elections. A lot of us have questioned whether Jacinda Ardern herself ever actually won the whole South Island. So in 2024, sitting here in the studio, I said, why don't we turn New Zealand Loyal into a people's movement? And what we'll do is aim to get 1 million strong, and then we'll be able to approach someone like Winston Peters with certain conditions in return for his getting the block vote of the New Zealand Loyal People's Movement. Many of you will know that a group then... and I did have a sense of this, although I didn't put that out in the initial message. A group then basically stole New Zealand Loyal, but they didn't just stop at that. They have lied about everything, and primarily about me. What they've tried to do is destroy my name. They have derided and diminished the work that I and the inner team did. They were not a part of the inner team. The man Alp has claimed that they were all his policies. That's nonsense. They were policies we all felt. They were general policies that many New Zealanders wanted. I had studied all of the background to everything I talked about. That's why on the tour I was able to ad lib in every meeting. I didn't talk to anybody with notes. I had studied all of this. I knew the policies I wanted. I was the founder of the party. It was a matter of working with a whole lot of different groups. But Alp and his followers and one other group took it upon themselves to believe that they were singular, that somehow I was going to hand... it was another group who rang me 3 weeks after we'd registered and said, okay, we're ready to take it over. And I said, what do you mean? Oh, well, you had meetings with us. Didn't you want, I won't say the name, didn't you want so-and-so to lead it? And I went, no, I've set it up. And you can join in and you can contribute. But no, I'm not going to do all the hard work, get it over the line and then hand it on to someone else. I have the vision for it. I have the name for it that I came up with at 3 a.m. and I'm going to carry this through to the end. There is a quality about Loyal that I represent that I need to really bring to New Zealand, this idea that we can be a different kind of country with a different kind of politics. One of the keynotes for the different kind of politics was this. I said over and over, do not join New Zealand Loyal if you lust for power over others. Do not join New Zealand Loyal if you want to do politics the way it's always been done. Well, the people who've tried to steal it are exactly that. They lust for power over others at any cost. And that's why I'm sending you this message. I have a really urgent request. We have a window in which to protest to the Electoral Commission about the way they have taken this party, and I believe they will absolutely defile New Zealand Loyal. I am very concerned that it took them 2.5 years to get anywhere near the 500 people that are needed to be able to register a party. We know that even a month ago they were struggling because a friend of mine turned up at a meeting with his friend to unlock, I think it was a church hall, and he reported back to me that Alp was there with one other woman and there was nobody in the meeting. My friend said to Alp, how's it going? He said, it's very difficult. Now remember that New Zealand Loyal, when I founded it, had 1,750 sign-ups in one night, overnight. So there was a real trust and a real passion for what we did in 2023, and that's the key. I'm very grateful for the messages of support, and many of you wanted us to revive New Zealand Loyal. I have had almost 3 years of, I think, the most intense experience of bullying and nastiness that I've ever experienced in my life, and it has taught me a lot. It's put steel in my spine. The people who have looked to steal New Zealand loyal are not the people to whom I would ever in a million years have entrusted New Zealand loyal. One of their cries was, "It's the People's Party," but it's not a party that I founded to be given to these sorts of people. And what do I mean by that? The sorts of people who lie, the sorts of people who bully, the sorts of people who defame, the sorts of people who lust for power, and the sorts of people who would steal. And what they've done is they've sought to steal this political party away from the very vision that I had, which was to do something completely different in New Zealand with politics, not to create a legacy politics party, to go on for years and years and just become part of the pig swill of dishonourable politicians, which is what now we're looking at, having taken over NZ Loyal. I would go further. I would question whether these people have received some kind of payment from the government to do this, or was the deal that their court case and the charges in that court case from years ago would slowly disappear in return for making sure that the real New Zealand loyal, the people's movement, which I could have flicked around now had we built that people's movement, could have flicked back into the real New Zealand political party, to truly serve New Zealand, to stand up to the globalists, to put the Barry Young data front and centre. Were they paid to make sure that never happened? Or were promises made to them to make sure their court charges slowly disappear? Keep an eye on their court case. Keep asking them about that. Whatever, they've done what they've done in the most unethical way. And it's for that reason that I'm doing this message to the real New Zealand loyal database holders. We have more than enough evidence now to know that one of the first unethical things they did, dishonourable, dishonest things they did, we believe that ALP, in offering to drive the database to New Zealand, to Wellington in New Zealand, to get it over the line in time, because remember, I only started this and founded it 11 weeks out from the 2023 election. So I had many people offering to help. He came in, he was not part of the central group. We'd spent days and nights going through all the names, checking all the details. It took a lot of work. He came in and said, "Look, I can drive that through the night down to Wellington for you. All of your data, all of your names and addresses, your documents were printed off, but they were put in a sealed envelope." Never in a million years at that stage did I contemplate that on the freedom side of New Zealand there were people that would be unethical enough to open a sealed envelope destined for the Electoral Commission, take out the names and addresses, copy them, and then deliver it. And of course he didn't tell me that he had done that. But I have more than enough evidence that he did, because we've had many messages from different people saying, "I don't support counterspin. I never wanted Hannah Spira or Kelvin Alp or Counterspin to have my name and address. Why are they sending me messages? Did you give the data to Counterspin?" To which we replied, "Absolutely not. Absolutely not." But this was by 2024, when I was starting to realize after the election that an extremely devious plan was underway. So why am I sending you this message now? We're all sick of division. I stayed silent for 2.5 years in the face of their brutality, their insult, their demeaning of me, their diminishing of all the work that we did, their taking the credit where it wasn't due to them, their pretending that it was their party, their policies, when I was absolutely steeped in those policies. They were the policies I wanted. They were the policies actually many of you wanted. They weren't exclusive to ALP, but he's taking credit and saying they were my policies and it's my party. If so, why didn't he put out NZ Loyal? If he came up with the name, or someone in his group came up with the name, why didn't they just put it out? They didn't need me. The reason that he didn't, and the reason that they didn't have the name NZ Loyal, is because I came up with it.
And they take it into Parliament. What do you think? I mean...
And tell us a little bit about your background. What have you done in your life so far? Because Of course, it's not about a CV and it's not about a university qualification. It's about being very real people. I was going to call it the Common Sense Party until I woke up at 3 o'clock one morning and went, loyal. Loyal to us. We've got to be loyal. And every New Zealander who's going to win this fight with me is going to be loyal to one another, but absolutely loyal to our country and not going to follow these traitors who trot off to the, what is it called? The WEF. Oh my God. I said the other night at a meeting, because we did the work to get it out. Now, why could he not in 2024 have put out the ALP party? Ask yourself that. Why didn't he put out a party in another name? The ALP party, he's a giant ego. Why didn't he want his own name? The reason for that is he knew no one would vote for it. So what they've tried to do is slither in the back door, take the gold that we created, and I mean all of us, you with me, we created a People's Party, and I would have been more than happy to pass it on to people of the highest moral and ethical values who would have looked after and treasured you and never used you. I said all the way through, this may be a one-term, one-election party. I didn't want to build a legacy political party to join the morass in the pig swill, the pig pen that of dishonest people that is Wellington. We know that. I wanted to do something really different. I wanted to invite people who truly weren't in it for their own egos, who weren't in it lusting for power over you, who truly wanted to serve in the old-fashioned way that, well, my father taught me many, many times. All those soldiers did in World War II. I've said this to you many times. But no, these people hatched a plan somewhere during the time that I was campaigning, and their plan was, we will steal it. And part of their plan was simply to flood the AGM. The AGM they held was completely fake. It was not a valid AGM, and the reason for that is neither ALP nor Spira were paid up members of Loyal. So non-paid members of Loyal. They weren't members. How could they hold an AGM unless it was fraudulent? All the way through this, there is fraud. Actually, he said that he was sticking to the Constitution, which was not ratified by me when I said we will cancel the party and we will turn it into a people's movement. I'm very good at strategy, and I knew that politics was so corrupted in New Zealand by mid-2024 when I came on and said, I think we will turn it into a people's movement. I knew that there was very little chance that we would ever get a seat at the table, at the political table, unless we played the game. And watch out for that. Watch out for that with this group. Are they playing a game with the government? I put out a piece in which I showed that the deputy, Alcock, has actually tried to herd people, put them to sleep, to herd them into digital money. And to just accepting, he said, oh, it'll happen, there's nothing we can do. That's certainly not what Catherine Austin Fitz said. That's not what Andrew Bridgen said. That's in my last piece, which is below this. It really worries me that there's some form of backroom collusion with the forces of the globalists who are the sold-out politicians. They certainly didn't want the rebellion that I offered. I belonged to nobody. I was nobody's cohort, slave, sellout. I was a complete maverick, and I wasn't welcomed. There was a lot of pressure from many quarters. There was jealousy from many quarters. I didn't even want to be in politics. That is the greatest irony. In order to have no corruption, this country needs people who don't want power over you. Isn't that funny? They don't want to be in politics. We need people in a party who say, I don't even trust politics. I certainly don't trust politicians. That's what I offered you. That's what made it so different. And instead, this dark group hatched a plan to steal it. So back to why I'm giving you this message. This is really important. Because they've cheated on so many other things, and I could list a number of them here, including saying that one of their own came up with the name Loyal. I came up with that name after, I think it was 3 or 4, maybe even 5 nights of lying awake from 3 a.m. and going, who am I going to vote for? What's going to happen to this country? Who will look out for my grandchildren? And in the middle of one of those dark nights of the soul, when I was going, I feel I'm losing this country. We're all losing the country we love. Out from the darkness came these letters, and it was clear and bright and golden, and it was loyal. Loyal. And I went, loyal. Loyal to New Zealand. Loyal to the people. The total antithesis, the total opposite of everything that our current crop of politicians of all parties are. They're tricking us, they're lying to us, they're deceiving us, they're selling us out. So I would do something so different, so brave, so audacious. And now this group of thieves are saying they even came up with that name. And I need you, if you can, please to write to IPONS and say, I remember Liz Gunn saying in the first message, we'll put the clip here, that she came up with it at 3 a.m. It's about being very real people. I was going to call it the Common Sense Party until I woke up at 3 o'clock one morning and went, loyal. Loyal to us. We've got to be loyal. And every New Zealander who's going to win this fight with me is going to be loyal to one another, but absolutely loyal to our country and not. Now, at no stage did this fellow Rob, who himself is like Alp, deeply questionable. I might say more about him another time, but I will tell you this. He was at the airport when Jonathan and I were beaten up. He had always claimed that he was a big, brave soldier back in Holland. He stood by while a 63-year-old grandmother was beaten up by a policeman. He is not a man I would ever trust, and to prove that point, I will tell you he should have been a witness in my trial. But I trusted his word and his integrity so little by then, because I'd got to know him a bit and he'd done some terrible things, including making an attempt to break up my relationship. I'll get back to that later. That I didn't even ask him to be a witness in the trial because I didn't trust him. Now, he is the man who's saying he came up with the name Loyal. So across the whole spectrum of it, I could talk to you for another hour about the hideousness of the abuse I've received, the denigration I put up with in silence, the pushing back in the last month when I found out from the woman who had done Alp's bidding, Costello, Samantha Costello. She had, from mid-2024 when I closed NZ Loyal and said, let's do a people's movement, she had spent every single day for 10 months, every day across multiple platforms, deriding me and demeaning me and lying about me. This is their modus operandi too. They lie. They simply put out lies, the three of them.
Talking to him about integrity and honesty, and he then turns it around and, how could I not trust him? And then he gives me another story, and it's not till time goes on and you see a pattern and you realize, my God, he's actually lying. I know that sounds really bad, but it was so calculated. It was so well meticulously put together. The whole thing.
I will deal with that one now. So hideous. My father said, never explain. Your friends don't need it because they know who you are, and your enemies won't believe you anyway. So I chose to stay silent. They had nothing on me. There was nothing scandalous they could find. So they did what all unethical people do. They just made up something. And Samantha Costello, on behalf of Alp as his lapdog, every day claimed that I had taken money. I would never in any universe take someone else's money. I would never sleep. I just couldn't live with myself if I did that. But when you go public and try to convince others who don't believe you, it's very weak. So I didn't do that. I stayed silent. But all of you who have been interviewed by me, all of you who've been jab injured and interviewed by me, you know that Free NZ never even took a cent of all of the monies that I raised during the height of the pandemic under Ardern. There was one businessman who was about to go bust. His business was very close to shutting down because of all the bullying of the Ardern government. And I won't say the name, but that one interview we did, we put up the bank account, and that one interview raised $75,000. For another man in a wheelchair, that one interview raised $49,000, and he was about to lose his home. He was in a wheelchair because of the jabs. So all of those interviews, we raised thousands and thousands. Free NZ, my choice really for the team was that we would not take 1 cent for ourselves. I said to the team, we're doing this for free. I'm using all my skills as a journalist to help my country. That's what we do in wartime. And I never trumpeted that until now. I never made a fuss about that till now. But to see this ghastly group of liars and thieves painting me as somebody who would defalcate with money, it was so painful. And many times, again in the night, I would wake up and go, I will go out tomorrow and defend my name. But then I thought, no, those who know me will know that I would never do that, and that Alp and his dastardly crew are lying. And those who don't know me may go along. Those without critical thinking may fall for it. And I just have to bear that. I'm not going to weakly follow in a weak sort of pleading way and say, please, you know that I would never do that. But I will put it out now, 2.5 years later. They were absolute lies about us taking money. The Free NZ and Loyal accounts were checked by auditors and then obviously by our accountant. The Loyal accounts were then cleared by the Electoral Commission. In December of 2023, we were then left with 51,000. We had to run multiple accounts and platforms for our candidates who we were still keeping on. We also had Loyal accounts across all the platforms, and that is expensive. And then in addition to that, we had one of our members to whom I initially, Logan Courtney, to whom I was initially going to give the leadership. He had a very serious accident. As we know, ACC has been at the very best slow, at the very worst just declining many, many New Zealanders. And his wife kept saying, we can't survive, he's out of operation, he's not able to work, he's out of operation as far as money earning. Please, can you help us, Liz? And because I was going to hand NZ Loyal to him, I thought then he would be a good leader. I made a foolish mistake, and we gave him, I think, 17,000 of that 51,000. So between December of 2023 and mid-2024, the date when I closed down NZ Loyal, a lot of that 51,000 had been used. And actually a businessman came up to me, Eddie, and said, 51,000 is nothing, Liz. I don't know why they're making all this fuss about it. That shows you were diligent in the way you managed the last of the Loyal monies while you were deciding what to do with the party. There was nothing high-handed about my closing it down. And it was the party that I founded and I worked hard for. And I did have a right to be strategic about what we did with NZ Loyal as its leader. We had not sanctioned and cleared the Constitution in mid-2024. And before we called an AGM, I did start to have a sort of second sense that there was something very evil that was, if you like, on the borders. When we created it in 2023, it was, I said to one of the team, we're just going to do this with love for our country, with dedication, with service, from the most honourable part that New Zealanders have. And there are so many good New Zealanders, and there are. Many of you are, and you showed me that in the hard work you also put in. But I did feel that something very dark surrounded the light during the tour. I felt some dark energies coming in, and we know this is a war of light and dark. I couldn't quite put my finger on it when I shut the party down, but I thought if we make it a loyal people's movement, the darkness will reveal itself. Meantime, we can collect more people, we can refine the policies that we want to bring to bear for the next election. For example, we will not have genetically engineered foods being put out in this country. Barry Young's data must be put out. There must be a reduction in censorship. There must be a reduction in police powers, and the police must be held to account. Those sorts of things we could have gone if we had been 800,000 strong or 1 million strong. We could have gone to somebody like Winston Peters and said, we have a large block vote. And if you want these voters, then you must agree to implement these policies. Or, of course, I knew strategically, if we had the numbers, we also could have flicked it back into being a live party. So I shut it down, partly because I felt disillusioned with the system, but actually primarily because I felt something very evil was going on. So here it is to the real members. With all of the other evils that I could list, here is one that is worrying me incessantly at the moment. I believe, to get over the 500 mark, that this group of highly unethical, lustful for power, brutal people under ALP, and I'll just put a couple of messages here. You can go into his backstory, we'll put the articles underneath, but here's a message that came up in one of the threads, and this young man says, ALP stole all my father's money for his gold scam up in the Solomon Islands. That's a bigger story that I can't go into here. This woman said, I mean, look at what she writes here. A man who has, I think, a loathing of women. My sense, for the limited exposure I had to him, he was never in the inner circle, although he will lie about that as well. I found that he is very cruel to women. He likes to dominate women. He likes women to be very subjugated to him, very submissive to him. He certainly can't handle a woman like me who's not the least bit afraid of his bullying, I've always seen bullies as weak, and bully men are despicable, absolutely despicable. They're not manly in any way, but they're pretending to be big and tough. Inside, they're cowardly marshmallows who love to hurt those they think they can get away with hurting. And I think I've confused him by my silence. I think I've confused him by my lack of fear of him. I despise him. He is not a leader. He is not honest in any way. He is not ever the sort of person I would have handed a political party to. And how you can go along with it and think, well, at least he's better than others. I've put out something from Samantha Costello in which she says he should have 2 life sentences, and the country has ignored it.
So it's going to be very, very hard to sit back and be silent. Knowing what I know, the guy should be in prison. You know, seriously. He should have 2 life sentences for the 2 things that I know about him. The thing that happened like 4 nights ago that I haven't really told you about. I can't even process what he said to me and the way that he said it and how he proved it to me, how he stopped by my house to show me something, to make sure that I knew.
He's a wimp. He's a coward, but he still does bad stuff. He might be a wimp, but he's just let me know that he's just killed someone. And he had what looked like evidence to me.
The country has ignored it because Samantha's gone, as she always does. Look over here, look over here, look over here. I can put this absolutely with my hand on the Bible to New Zealand. If somebody comes and says to me, you must keep a secret, and then the secret involves the potential taking a life of a Kiwi, you can absolutely know I will not keep that secret. That is the most serious crime, to take another's life. Samantha Costello left those messages for me. I didn't record her. She left those messages with a third party. She kept saying to the third party, please get these messages to Liz. Have you got them to Liz? I didn't listen to them for months. And when I did a couple of months ago, I sent them to a friend who said, Liz, this is so serious. I said, I know. Why has she not put them out? That was 6 months I gave her to put out the truth that she knows. And all she's done in the time since is go, look over here, Liz broke her confidence, Liz broke her confidence, helped by simpering weak men who want to please her and who have backed that up. John Ansell, who has not even spoken about the potential murder charges that could be here that Samantha knows about, or about the admission from Samantha that ALP and Spira and all these others have been commissioned, if you like, to sabotage the freedom movement.
Anyway, 100% he's destroying Loyal, and I'm seeing that clearer and clearer by the day. He's there to destroy it. And, you know, as I become more open about that, because I won't be able to help it, and I talk more about Canisman being controlled opposition, the more messy it's going to get. So, yeah, it kind of, the penny dropped for me a little bit more yesterday when you said that. You said that's why they would put someone thoroughly unlikable there, someone who will destroy it. Kind of just understand that it was just a crazy, crazy, chaotic time. And I genuinely think that that's what Calvin and Hannah are here for the stuff that I found out. And it's beyond just money and stuff. It is serious, serious stuff. I couldn't get more serious, quite honestly. And I wish I could say more. I really, really do. But I believe that that's what they're here for, is to create that kind of chaos and completely sabotage anything good. And I'm not saying that just because of the result of things they've done. I'm saying it because of other things that I found out.
Those things need now to be exposed by Samantha. I think she should, if she has anything decent in her, and I'm not sure she does, she needs to go to the police and she needs to report what she knows, and she needs to tell us, the people, what she knows. Enough with the, look over here, she broke her confidence. It was murder that you accused him of. That's the message you sent to me. Now front up with what you know. So here we have a potential murderer standing for our parliament. We know he is a bankrupt. He is a bankrupt. He can't manage money. That's why he has projected that onto me. We know that he's taken money from people for his gold scam. There are many other things I could say, but here's the final thrust of this message to you, the members. I believe that he stole that database. The implication is, did he use any of your names in order to get the party over the 500 threshold? Now, I've made inquiries, and there is no way that any of us can know. There is no way there's transparency on the names that the thieves, the fake NZ Loyal, have put in to the Electoral Commission. The only way this will work now is if you are willing to play your part. I'm going to write a letter to them saying this man cannot be registered as a political leader in New Zealand of this party. He's stolen the party. He's tried to destroy the name of the founder. He's made false claims all the way through about doing all the work and being in the inner circle. It's complete lies. He's misrepresented everything. He's claiming that he came up with the name, or one of his supporters did. And moreover, he's saying he got to 500 when a month ago he told somebody he was really struggling to get there. So here, Electoral Commission, and we'll put a prototype letter underneath, I want you to check the names that he's put in, to see whether Elizabeth Gunn is in there as a potential member of fake New Zealand Loyals. So please would you do the same. If you're John Smith, write and say, I want to know if my name and my details are in the fake New Zealand Loyal Party. And I also want to register with you, the Electoral Commission, that this man does not have the character or the integrity or the decency or the honour to be able to represent a party in this election campaign. That's my message to you all, and I ask you to do that as soon as possible. Have a look at this letter, which we can put underneath as well, so you can see the prototype for the letter to send in. These are dark times. We are desperate for another option. Because of what these people have done, I have not been able to offer you that in the election. However, I still think when I get the name NZ Loyal from IPONS, the only way they can take it is if they lie, which of course they will. But I have already been told by IPONS, you have the name. If these people lie, I pray, and I would ask you to write a letter to them as well, that they look at the videotapes where I said I came up with that name at 3 a.m. So we have that chance, once we absolutely have that name confirmed, to do something to push back in this election. But meantime, I have had some offers from overseas, which I'm going to look at. They are people who don't abuse, who don't deride, who don't show complete lack of any appreciation for what all of us did. So I have to look at those options overseas as well. It's been a heartbreak. It's been a great disappointment to see what these miscreants have done. But we have survived, and Jonathan, who's behind the camera, and I often say, well, on our deathbed, we can look our God in the eye and say, I did my best for my country. And I think many of you who are the real NZ loyal members can say the same. I know how hard you worked, and I know how disappointing it was when we all knew that we should have had a much higher vote count. But on the night, we were the largest small party. I can never explain how top the Opportunities Party got 40,000 special votes. Did they get some of ours? There's much corruption in New Zealand, but all of us who are decent, who are actually loyal, can pat ourselves on the back and say, we gave it a really good go in 2023, and there may be still something we can do coming into this election in 2026. We may be able to get a body of us together and push back and see if one of the major parties will listen to us. It's disappointing though, and I am worried about theft of your name, and I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry that I ever gave that database to a man who is so utterly untrustworthy as Kelvin Alp. Thank you for listening.
In the deep of the dark night, I had a vision. It was 3 a.m. in the morning. It was a revelation. It was as bright as a golden light. If we all can unite without political ambition, without division. With New Zealand loyal. Ooh, yeah. I had no reservations. We must stand strong for our nation because of government collusion. So it never ever happens again. With relentless dedication on behalf of our nation. So I made the decision because I had a vision. Without warning, this could be the solution, a political solution, a movement of the people, with New Zealand loyal. To stop the fear and confusion that is taking hold of our good nation. So I put my vision forward on behalf of the people.